Wow. I just made a video about the high school teacher who brought real swords to the classroom, and now I'm seeing another crazy sword incident. This happened on the 28th of February in Brazil at a hospital in Feira de Santana, which I probably mispronounced. So this absolutely unhinged nutjob showed up at the pediatric emergency room with a sword or a sword-like object and started a fight with a security guard, which actually ended up worse for him than the guard, fortunately. It doesn't really say what the context was. The psycho loser just says something to the guard and immediately takes a swing at him. So I'm guessing there might have been something happening before that, or maybe he was making a scene and the guard confronted him and maybe they had like a verbal altercation, whatever, and then he came back with a sword. That's what I'm guessing. I'm going to link the article in the description, of course. So the guy in blue here is the security guard. And there the attacker shows up and strikes a pose. So they say something to each other and immediately, boom! The guard is much bigger and can handle him fairly easily, it looks like. So, you gotta beat him. It's a bit hard to see from that angle, but you can just tell he's kind of looking over his shoulder like, bruh, come on. Don't be pathetic. So he just starts walking over to him with his cojones of steel, and the guy immediately starts to wind up a baseball swing, and he puts up his forearm as soon as he sees that. Why didn't he get injured? Well, because the guy has no idea how to swing a sword. As usual, security cam footage is not the greatest quality, low resolution, low frame rate, and compressed, so it's a bit hard to see, but you can actually tell what looks like the blade just bending around his forearm. So basically this. Normally I would be inclined to show how to do it correctly, but that just seems wrong in this context. So let's just focus on how it was done incorrectly because it's for the best. This thing is kind of strange anyway. It sort of looks like a katana and is being ironically referred to as samurai. I can only guess it's some kind of wallhanger because a functional katana has a pretty thick spine and is very rigid. So if the flat hits the forearm, it's not going to whip around. And in fact, it would hurt quite a bit to get smacked in the forearm with the flat. Of course, on adrenaline, you probably wouldn't even notice it. This one, on the other hand, seems to wrap itself around his arm, and it gets weirder. Look what happens afterwards. What the hell is going on? I've been looking at this for a while, trying to figure out, is this some kind of glitch? Does this just look weird in the footage? But it looks like the blade is splitting.
That does look like it breaks. Are we sure this thing is made of metal?
When he stands there, it looks like metal. Or it could just be painted.
Oh wait, it's a mallninja thing.
It looks like either a deep fuller or, in fact, it looks like the white hospital floor is shining through. It's a bit hard to see. When it's in front of his leg, it looks like it's just a fuller. Nah. When I consider that there might be partial fullers that could give the appearance of a split blade, I gave it too much credit. And by it, I mean the useless mallninja trash that should never have been made. And also the sword. It seems to split lengthwise. Here, in particular, that it looks like tweezers. If anyone can identify this thing, let us know in the comments. Anyway, apparently nobody was hurt. The security guard might have been bruised, but not cut, as it looks like. And kudos to him for stepping up and subduing this lunatic. I mean, to attack an unarmed person with a weapon is already a despicable scumbag move, but he did it in front of young children, too, in a hospital. I mean, bottom of the barrel, absolute piece of shit. So some of you might be thinking the security guard took too much of a risk trying to block it with his forearm. He could have gotten his arm cut off, right? Yes. Well, we don't know what it looked like to him. Maybe he could tell in person that this was some cheap, dull wall hanger piece of crap. But even if not, there's only so much you can do. You know, unarmed against a weapon, you're screwed either way. What he needed to protect first and foremost was his head and his neck. He can live without his forearm, but not without the other two, especially considering that he was already at a hospital. You know, it's macabre and all, but if he had lost the arm, they could have most likely reattached it surgically. Sure, the best way to respond to an attack with a weapon is to not be in its path. You know, step away, step to the side, whatever. But as you can see there, he really didn't have any space. He was backed up against a counter, and there wasn't a whole lot of space to go to. And also, as said, there were young children. So he had to confront this guy and take him down before he hurt somebody else. So really stepping into it and trying to catch it was pretty much the best thing he could have done. In general, unarmed versus a weapon, you need to get in there. You need to get past the weapon and get to grappling and try to take it away or disable the attacker. So if anything, you'd have to rush in more aggressively and tackle the guy as soon as he raises up the weapon to chamber a strike, which is easier said than done, especially in an everyday situation. Even in our experimental sparring like sickle versus sword or spiked arm shields versus sword, it was very difficult to close the distance safely, and that was just in friendly sparring. People are generally not prepared for this kind of crap. Security guards more so, but either way, it's very easy to hesitate because you're like, whoa, what the hell is going on? Like your brain needs to take a moment to process, because a lot of people in a situation like this have a surreal experience of it. They're still trying to process, like, wait, this can't be happening right now, can it? So your reaction time is compromised. There's so many things you can say in hindsight looking at what happened. Like, oh, other people should have jumped him from behind. They should have all piled up on him, blah, 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 whatever. In the real world, in actual situation like this, a lot of people just freeze up and don't know what to do and can't really act. So this was probably the best outcome you could hope for, pretty much. It also goes to show again that cutting with a sword is not as easy as it may seem. In this case, it may very well have been the sword-like object. It was possibly totally dull and just a piece of crap, in which case you can't, even if you try your best. But it's visible that he just twisted it and didn't hit with the actual edge. But on the other hand, I shouldn't even say that, no pun intended here. On the same news website, there's also a story about how someone's hand was cut off in an attack. They have no idea what it was, apparently. Struck with a machete, a blade that resembles a katana. No, that's very different things. Either way, it shows that sometimes it doesn't take that much. Even an untrained attacker can do a lot of damage. And machetes are usually intended as tools, so they tend to be a little bit better made than some of the wallhanger sword-like objects, if it really was a machete, or a machetana, whatever. Anyway, so even in this day and age, sword attacks happen sometimes. A couple of years ago, I made a video about how useful historical martial arts would be in self-defense on the street, and, well, in a situation like this, it would be useful. Fortunately, quite rare. I hope you found this interesting. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Take care, folks. Wow, I just